Let's talk about a real guy in my gym right now. Now, I guess maybe not he's in my gym because I don't know if I'll ever see this guy again, but I want to go through the mistakes he makes. So if he ever hears this podcast, he'll be like, hey, is this about me? But I think it's okay to make this podcast because I don't know his name. He doesn't know my name. And the likelihood of him finding this podcast is probably pretty low. But let's get into it now.
This is the Game of Food.
This is the Game of Food.
We're helping real people get real results with delicious food. Real food. Live from Spencer's home studio, podcasting to the world. This is Game of Food. And here's your host, Spencer Frederick.
So I'm going to talk about this real guy at my gym, and I think everybody can relate to this a little bit because, you don't have to have a gym membership to relate to this story that I'm going to tell. It can be related to your home workouts, your diet plan, whatever it is, but I want you to think of yourself when I'm telling this story about this guy. So he's about 6-7 years younger than me. That's a guess because him and I have never talked. So I go to the gym roughly the same time each day. I work out 5 days a week. And I used to see this guy all the time, and he was the annoying guy in the gym. Like, honestly, he was. So I tried to stay away. I think he's probably a nice guy. I think he might be, maybe fairly normal. But he would just get way too excited in the gym, and he'd usually come in with like what looked like, two really close friends, and they'd all lift weights together, or sometimes he came with a girl, which I assumed was maybe like a girlfriend or a fling, or I don't know, but he was always too excited. He would say quotes like, if they were working on legs, like they were doing squats and leg press, he'd be like, come on, bro, we need those summer legs. And that was in spring. So he's like, summer legs. And they would carry a sled. So they tie a sled to their waist with rope, and then they put weights on this sled, and then they walk around the track with it. And it looked like it was really tough, not gonna lie. And then him and his like broskies in the gym are like, you got this, 8 more steps, 7, 6, 5. They're counting the steps and they're yelling. You know what I mean? They are yelling. They're also, especially this guy I'm talking about, is like when they go to lift weights, they are screaming. And believe me, you do not have to scream when you're lifting weights, okay? Yes, a little bit of grunting and some hard breathing sometimes when the weight is really heavy. Yeah, maybe necessary. But I'm talking, every rep, he's like, I mean, it just sounded weird too. He made weird noises. One more. Just all this annoying stuff that just distracted me. I could hear this guy through my music, through my earbuds. And he would just go harder than anyone is my main point. He worked out way harder than me. He did more reps. I don't think he was stronger than me, but boy, he would do some heavy weight. He was there all the time. I bet at the time when I was seeing him the most, like in the springtime, I bet he was coming to the gym way more than me too. And I always go 5 days a week. I bet he was going 6 and 7 and maybe doing some extra stuff at home. I mean, this guy just went hard. And then it got to summertime. I can't remember which month it was. And I never saw the guy again for a long time, several weeks. And he was lean. He was fairly muscular. He's not the most muscular person. But when you looked at this guy, you're like, yeah, he definitely works out. He has... looks like he has some strength, some muscle, and he's lean enough that you can see lines and see the muscle tone. You could definitely tell he worked out. And then all of a sudden, I never saw him. And one, it was awesome because I didn't have to listen to him and his broskies screaming in the gym anymore. So that was kind of nice. And I just kind of assumed, okay, maybe this guy moved. He was young enough that maybe he's still kind of in the job search mode and maybe moved to a different town and went to a different gym. That's what I assumed. But then at the end of the summer, not too long ago, like September-ish, I saw him again. And he was deflated. Now, for those of you that lift weights, when you stop lifting weights, what happens is you shrivel. So I feel like I'm kind of muscle bound. If I ever stopped lifting weights, the first thing that would happen is I'd lose my muscle and I'd shrivel up and look like a string bean. And that would happen first before weight gain or fat gain. And so that's exactly what happened to him. And I'm talking he shriveled up. Like when I saw him again later on, like, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks later, maybe a little longer, 8 or 10 weeks later, this guy shriveled up. He looked like a string bean. Remember I said it looked like this guy had muscle and strength and muscle tone, all these things. You couldn't tell anymore. You couldn't tell anymore that this person was a person that lifted weights. He just looked kind of like he was kind of skinny fat. Have you ever heard that before? Where somebody's skinny fat, like they're not obese or overweight, but like they have no muscle tone at all and they're kind of stringy. But they do have a little bit of flub on them. So that's what he came back as. He looked like that. And it was a big enough change that it stopped me in my tracks. Like I saw him like, holy cow, there's that guy. And whoa, he's lost like 30 pounds of sheer muscle. And what do you know? He's in there again with, I think it was some new broskies. I don't know. I didn't recognize him, but let's go, bro. You got this. 8, 7, 6, 5. You know, same stuff again. Just going balls to the wall again. And here he is. He's starting to look better week by week. And now recently, here I am at the end of the year. I don't see him again. And I want to talk about what he's doing wrong. And he needs to get out of this cycle right now. Like I said earlier, this guy was working out harder than me. He was working out more than me. He was spending more hours in the gym than me when he would go to the gym. And he was going 120%. He was literally going harder than anyone else in the gym, but he was going too hard. He was overtraining. And I know he's all natural. He doesn't take steroids or anything like that. Just because I can tell by somebody's build if they take that stuff or not. And he's not on that stuff. So he was missing the rest and recovery. And I also heard some conversations like, hey, we're going out, we're going to get hammered and stuff. Whatever. I don't care what people do at all. This podcast is not about like, hey, don't drink alcohol. He's just doing too much. He was working out all the time, spending at least 2 hours in the gym when he'd go in 6-7 days a week. And then he's crushing beers probably on the weekends with his broskies. You know, and that's just too much. He was not allowing rest and recovery. And so, yeah, you can go really hard like that for a while. Maybe like 3 months. I don't know. You can just go balls to the wall, but you are going to get burnt out. And so then he probably got super drained and burnt out, and he missed the gym for like 8 or 10 weeks. And then he came back and he's super motivated again, like, yeah, this feels good. And then it just looks impossible because he thinks you have to crush your soul to get results. And he thinks that if you work out, the harder you go, the more repetitions, the more movements you do, the better. And if you're all natural and not taking steroids, then that is not true. And I am going to forever beat this guy if he can't figure this out. Why am I going to beat this guy? Is because I go 70 or 80% for the rest of my life. I don't work out as hard as that guy. I bet he was probably eating better than me during his really excited phases. I bet he was doing everything better than me, but the difference is I can keep going because I'm doing a realistic plan that like fits my body and doesn't cause injury and all these extreme factors that he adds to his program. And he's just gonna, if he doesn't find balance, if he doesn't find a more realistic plan, he's gonna be the guy that just gets results short term and then loses them all right after. And I tell this story because anyone can relate to this guy. You don't have to be like a young weightlifter to relate. It could be anybody's cardio thing. So, you see people run around town, you see them run by your house and stuff, and you're like, oh, wow, I've seen that person running quite a bit. And then all of a sudden you never see them running again. And that person can relate to this story. You have to do something that you think you could do every day or every single week, and it's not too extreme. So that guy probably looks at me and looks at my not to be arrogant, but just looks at my figure and he's probably like, wow, that guy goes hard. What he doesn't know is that I don't. I could go a lot harder in all areas. I could get more steps, more cardio. I could lift more. I could add more weight. I could eat better. I could delete more sugar. I could do all these things. But I don't do that very much because I always want to enjoy the process. I always want it to be fun. And that's how I'm going to beat that guy, is because I enjoy going to the gym. At some point, that guy doesn't, because he's like, holy crap, the gym is torture. He's torturing himself. That's what he's doing. And you can also relate nutritionally to this guy. So some people, when they go to lose weight, it's like, I must delete all sugar. Every gram I must delete. And they're just doing this extreme thing. So they go from one extreme of just crushing carbs and sugar and super high calorie to like super low calorie, and they deleted all junk, all sugar. And in some cases, many people think carbs are bad and they delete all carbs. And that's not realistic either for the majority of people. The majority of people can't do something that is that extreme without getting burnt out, without it being too boring, without, crashing and returning to your old habits. So don't go 120%. You don't have to. You are not an Olympian. You're not training for the Olympics. People that are training for the Olympics, yes, they should probably work out twice a day. They should probably crush their soul. They should probably eat a certain way that is super clean. But for us that just want to be toned, we just want to, trim up our stomach. We don't want our stomach to show through our shirt anymore. You don't have to do that extreme stuff. And this is something I would see all the time in the gyms back in the day when I worked at the gyms, is you would see a percentage of people that were just going insane and you couldn't tell them to slow down. I would kind of remind people even like, hey, make sure to get rest and recovery. And they'd have some weird quote like, no pain, no gain. So these are like the most motivated people for like a while, but then they just fall out of love with it and they return to old habits. And so my message to this guy, or anybody that can relate to this guy, is, hey, slow down. Figure out a way to where you like the process, to where you're still doing it 6 months later. And then I can guarantee you are going to crush all of your goals eventually. Because sometimes why people go this hard is because they want to get their goals as fast as possible. But if you do want that, I know you're going to quit. Because if you do reach all of your long-term goals in only 6 weeks, and that was your timeline, it's because you want to return to your old life. And then you're just going to be working on it again. Don't be this guy. He's the extreme. He goes for like 8 weeks hard and then 8 weeks completely off. And he's going to end up being the same person year after year. He won't get anywhere. And I want you to be different. So be different. Be realistic. Slow down. Enjoy the process. Thanks for tuning in.